早上好. It is about 9:10 in the morning on February the 10th in the city of Wenzhou, China, in Zhejiang province. Wenzhou is in the southern part of the country. It's about 5 hours south of Shanghai by train. And Wenzhou has been the second hardest hit city by the coronavirus, just after Wuhan itself. Zhejiang has suffered the most reported cases of corona, just behind Hubei province. So I'm starting this video log as sort of a diary to talk about my experience as a foreigner in this city that is trying to control and eradicate the coronavirus as quickly as possible before it hurts anyone else. And the first thing I will say is what tends to happen in situations like this is a lot of misinformation gets spread. That can happen many ways, fake news, of course, gossip and rumors, but also too, somebody might have an experience and they'll go and talk about it to everyone. And even though it really did happen to them, it was in fact an isolated incident, and everybody starts to believe that it's actually representative. This can be exemplified by the fact that, I read in the newspapers that my flight from Los Angeles to Shanghai via American Airlines was still going to be okay. Newspapers said American Airlines was going to suspend their flights as of February 6th, and my flight was on February 4th, so I thought I was okay. But in fact, I show up at the airport and the American Airlines check-in counter is like, what's wrong with you? Why are you here? We stopped flying to China like a week ago. So they put me on a different airline. They put me on China Eastern. And then I flew into Shanghai, and my original plan had been to take the train to Wenzhou. But I go online, or more specifically, I get on this social media app called WeChat, which is similar to other apps like Viber or WhatsApp, and it is unquestionably the primary form of communication in China. So I went on some groups on there that were just for foreigners and asked, what's the best way to get into Wenzhou? And I got all different kinds of information. Some people said the trains were still operational. Some people said the only way to get in was via airplane. Some people said you're not going to be allowed in at all because foreigners are getting turned away, even though Chinese are being let in. So I really had no idea what the hell was going on. So I took the advice of another Chinese, my personal trainer at the gym. He texted me and he said, best thing to do, spend the night in Shanghai and then take the plane to Wenzhou the next day, which I did. And even then, I wasn't sure what was going to happen because everybody was telling me that, you couldn't get a taxi anymore. But that turned out to not be true. I landed in Wenzhou and before I could get off the plane, people in hazmat suits had to take my temperature and have me fill out a form stating that I had not been in Hubei province within the last 2 weeks. But once I was allowed out, I was able to call a Didi car, just like usual. Didi is the Chinese equivalent of Uber. And I was able to get a car just like usual. The exception, of course, the only difference, of course, being that I was required to wear a mask, as was the driver. So I did, and I got back to my apartment complex, and there is a security gate. There's a security gate in every apartment building that's that's normal. That's been normal since long before the virus. But this time, I was almost not allowed to go in. At first, they told me go back to where you came from, but I insisted that that wasn't possible. So I was allowed back into my room on the condition that I remain in quarantine for a minimum of 2 weeks. In other words, I'm in I'm in my room. Well, not in my room. I'm allowed to, go to other parts of the complex, and there is a courtyard outside where I can go and sit in the sunshine and get some fresh air. So to be fair, I'm not indoors completely. So I can go downstairs and I can, I will go for walks in the courtyard. I'll just, walk laps and stuff, and that's what a lot of people I've observed are doing. Other people are in my apartment complex are doing the same thing, but I am confined to the apartment complex for at least 10 more days. And I say at least because currently the consensus is that the incubation period for the coronavirus is 14 days. And when I say incubation period, what I mean is the period of time that elapses before you can be certain that you have not been infected. Because, as with most all viruses, you don't get sick. You don't necessarily get sick the second you catch the virus. There could be a long period of time before you actually get sick, but you do have the virus inside of you and you are capable of spreading it to others. So, as of right now, most people agree that the incubation period is 14 days. If after 14 days you haven't shown any symptoms, then you're not infected. But some people are saying that it could be longer than that. Doctors and scientists are presenting evidence that the incubation period lasts longer than 14 days. So I could be longer. And I'll be honest, that was a bit tough to take at first. The fact that I wouldn't be able to go anywhere for 2 weeks, but thankfully I am managing to keep busy. I have a lot of books, as you can see behind me in my bookshelf there, so I'm reading a lot to pass the time. And I get my food delivered to me via a delivery app called Ulama. Ulama, again, commonplace long before the virus happened. And while their options are much more limited, they are remaining in service during this time to help people just like me who have to stay indoors. So they deliver, that's how I get my food. And the internet, of course, is how I stay connected with the outside world. So, yes, that is my current situation. I've been under quarantine since February 6th. In fact, there's a note outside the door where that stated an American had arrived here as of February 6th. I guess as a precaution to others living inside here that somebody came from the outside at this point. So it's tough. I mean, it's tough for everyone. But I guess I should consider myself lucky. I mean, for one thing, I have a friend in Japan who told me that some Japanese nationals were evacuated from China and brought back to Japan, and they were placed in a hotel room for 2 weeks. So, I mean, at the very least, I'm in my room. I have all of my things and, my thank all of my hobbies and pastimes. So that's one way I guess I should be appreciative. But it's still a bit hard. I try not to think too much about the fact that I still have at least another 10 days ahead of me to where I have to deal with this. So just trying to focus on one day at a time, seeing how quickly I can finish a book in one day or 1 or 2 days, and just trying to make the best of a tough situation. So this is my first log, and there will definitely be more to come. So see you next time. 再见.